The project that I'll be talking about today is DAMAC Lagoons. And the reason I chose this community is because the handovers for the first cluster have started. Now, what do we know about DAMAC Lagoons in general? With the first cluster, Santorini, launching in the fourth quarter of 2021, followed by 9 more clusters of townhouses, villas and apartments, this was one of the very few lagoon-based communities in Dubai. The difference was that we had seen a lagoon in District 1, we had seen one in Tilal Al Ghaf, but DAMAC came up with 9 different water bodies, bringing to life the resort living concept, and also at an affordable price. Now, fast forward to 2025, as the handovers take place, I'll be giving you an overview of the pricing at the time of the launch versus what the pricing is right now and what is expected out of it in the next couple of years as all the clusters get handed over. And then we'll discuss the rentals part of the project and how the investors in the first phase will make about 14% return on investment going forward. So here I'll be giving you an overview of the numbers for DAMAC Lagoons at the time of the launch versus what they are right now and what is expected for investors in the next couple of years. So in terms of townhouses, there were 3 main categories of townhouses in DAMAC Lagoons: the 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms and 5 bedrooms. So I'll write down some pricings for you. 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms and 5 bedrooms. At the time of the launch, when DAMAC launched the first cluster, this price was somewhere around 1.5 million for the 3 bedroom. For the 4 bedroom, it was somewhere around 1.62, and for the 5 bedroom, it was somewhere around 2.35. This was in the first phase. The pricing right now for the 3 bedroom is somewhere around 2.2 million dirhams. For the 4 bedroom in the first cluster, which is being handed over right now, the pricing is around 2.8 to 2.9 million dirhams. And for the 5 bedroom, it is somewhere around 3.7 to 3.8 million dirham. Now, what this shows us is that the numbers for the first phase investors have gone up significantly. And this is the trend that we've seen in most of the master communities that are developed by the major developers of Dubai, including, you could talk about Emaar, you could talk about Majid Al Futtaim, you could talk about Dubai Properties and DAMAC, the example that I'm giving right now. So what is expected in the future, in the next 2 years for this community, is somewhere around, on an average, 2.8 to 2.9 for the 3 bedroom. For the 4 bedroom, the expected rental is going to be, the expected price is going to be somewhere around 3.2 to 3.4. And this one is going to be 4.2 to 4.4 million dirhams. These numbers are not just estimations. These are actual trends from a community that is located right across the road from DAMAC Lagoons. Yes, I'm talking about Tilal Al Ghaf by Majid Al Futtaim. I'm giving an example of Tilal Al Ghaf again and again because the concept of the community was very similar. The starting prices were very similar, and the trends that we've seen in Tilal Al Ghaf are expected to be the trends that we'll see in DAMAC Lagoons in terms of the pricing, in terms of the rental. Now, I'll move on to the rental part of DAMAC Lagoons. For me personally, this is the most interesting part of this community because the first phase investors, the people that bought in the first phase, will be making returns of about 14%, and these returns have already started because the first few units have already been handed over. So I'll give you an overview of what the numbers are going to look like in terms of rentals. So again, I'll take 3 examples: the 3, 4 and the 5 bedroom townhouse. The 3 bedroom will be renting for around 180 to 200k per year. For the 4 bedroom, it will be somewhere around 240 to 250,000 per year. And for the 5 bedroom, it is going to be somewhere around 320 to 330,000 per year. Now, I'll just pick one unit type, the 4 bedroom. Now, the most interesting part is that the first phase, the initial investor, bought this unit for around 1.65 million dirhams, and he's getting a rental of over 240,000 right now. So what this tells us is that this investor will be making a return of more than 14%. See, now when I speak to clients, I tell them that the biggest advantage is to buy in the first phase of any community that is launching. So these are the trends that we will see going forward for any first phase investors, obviously depending on the location and the starting price of the community. But majorly what we've seen is that first phase investors end up making the most returns out of any community that is launching. Now, the main question is, what about the people that have missed on the DAMAC Lagoons and want a similar opportunity? Now, when we talk about a similar product, the first product that comes to my mind is DAMAC Islands, which had its first launch in December 2024. And DAMAC sold over 10 billion dirhams in a single day. Since then, the clients have been queuing up, submitting EOIs to get units in the remaining clusters. The final launch is expected next week, and DAMAC will be launching Seychelles and Hawaii with a starting price of 2.5 million for the 4-bedroom and around 3.4 million for the 5-bedroom townhouse. Now, when we compare this to DAMAC Lagoon and the market trends that we've seen, I still believe that there's a lot of scope for investors to make significant gains in the next 3 years. And one of the prime examples is the example that I just gave you in terms of rentals. So if a 4-bedroom townhouse of a similar size is renting for around 240 to 250,000 in DAMAC Lagoons, and you're buying a townhouse for 2.5 million in DAMAC Islands, then you're making approximately about 10% returns even on this pricing. And 10% return in today's market is a very, very good return. So my suggestion to anyone that's looking to buy in this price range right now is to go for DAMAC Islands, because the first cluster will have the final cluster is going to have limited number of units. So not a lot of units left. And once this is done, the next community that DAMAC launches is obviously going to be at a higher price, given that the market is moving upwards in an upward trend as well. So if you have any questions, please feel free to get in touch in the comments, and I would love to answer your questions. Thank you.